universities, Metro, Mercy, Montclair, and Lehigh. Back to Metro for an answer about Lock Haven.
Ambassador Kamal, we are still missing Lock Haven, so we shall proceed with one question from each of the remaining sites.
Right. Consider it a bonus question.
Bonus question. In that case, I will take the opportunity to ask a question myself. This is Jason Sforza, Professor of Political Science at Fairleigh Dickinson Metro.
That is what is normally called misuse of privilege.
Yes. I'm seizing executive power here. I'm struck, as Ambassador Kamal is, by the bleakness of the discussion so far. And I was wondering whether we could open up the discussion to include some of the new instances of cooperation in outer space. Most obviously, the International Space Station and the work being done there by both Russian cosmonauts, American astronauts, and others. And whether Mr. Rydell has any sense of how that project is evolving or how similar projects are evolving.
Yeah, this is a great question because there has been cooperation, not just in the space station, but even in launches. Countries have cooperated with each other, in which one country has produced the satellite and another has produced the missiles for the launch, or vice versa. So there is a cooperative effort in this sphere. All yours.
In any attempt to create a legal regime, you've really got to have two elements working, I would argue. One is self-interest, and the other is an ideal. And the hope that I see for the future of outer space law is based on a combination of self-interest and ideals. The self-interest is easy to identify. We all have a common stake in the advancement of knowledge of our atmosphere, of the ability to communicate rapidly and safely and easily across borders, the ability to travel from one country to another with the security of a reliable navigation system, the ability to monitor flows of pollution around the world using satellite technology. Frankly, the ability to monitor arms control agreements requires space surveillance satellites as well. This is a common interest for all of humanity that goes back to the original discussion we had today about borders and how increasingly irrelevant national borders are when it comes to looking at planetary problems that are best dealt with on a cooperative global basis. So I think that that in time, as the more educated we become, we will see that our self-interest is to benefit from constraints and regulations in space. And I think that in time also that voluntary codes of conduct will prove to be inadequate, and that there's going to have to be some kind of binding legal apparatus that will apply as well. So frankly, I view it as inevitable that we're going to be elaborating a series of maybe framework agreements, maybe a single treaty. I don't know how it'll take, but I do think it'll take legal significance. And I think the foundation for it will be this combination of that it's not only in our self-interest to do so, but it's the right thing to do. I think it's that both of those elements that are working. So it's because of that I am hopeful that we will eventually. Now, the example you use is a very good one. It's a symbolic example of the cooperation in the International Space Station. It's been a very costly project, but I do think that it has created scientific benefits that have gone to all the world rather than just the few countries that have been able to visit there. So I think that for that, again, that's another reason how we have a global interest involved.
And of course, it's also very interesting that on the one side you have a return to allergic animosity within quotes between the United States and Russia, with the planting of radars on a Russian periphery which the Russians regard as being directed against Russia. And the general impression in the United States that Russia is mistreating countries on its immediate periphery, whether it is Ukraine or Georgia. And so there is some animosity there. And yet, in outer space, this is the best example of collaboration between these two countries. And so there is something odd about this friendly foes relationship between these two countries. Over to Mercy for a question from that end.
Hi, my name is Matt Moreno from Mercy College. I'm a senior here. And our question for you is, what are the financial consequences of this research and development, and who will be allocated to it?
Which research and development are you talking about?
Outer space, and like whether or not we're going to do something to protect it or clean it up, like financially, where is this money going to come from? And is it going to be like a world thing, or is it going to be just us, or...
Okay, where is the money going? You can't ask Mr. Madoff because he's in jail now. So where do we get the money from, sir?
Well, most of the money that's coming for dealing with protecting satellites is coming from national treasuries. Although there is one exception to this rule that that we haven't discussed today that I think is very important indeed, because it might offer yet another model for where we can go from here. And that's the cooperation that's taken place in Europe, in the European Space Agency. We have countries that have participated in the world's worst wars in the 20th century in Europe, now cooperating in an unbelievable level. They have a common currency, they can travel freely between borders, and they don't have a rivalry anymore that goes on in the realm of space. They have managed to put aside their nationalisms and have found out that their common interest is best pursued by working together in a regional arrangement so that they can have money from each of the countries go into a common fund and pay for some of the projects that they have, the space launches and the satellite work that they're doing in science. So there may be a possible regional approach for dealing with some of these space problems, both in terms of financing of research and development, but also in terms of leasing or doing space launches on a regional basis. The whole idea would be to try to get away from this idea of competition and rivalries between individual states that is so often resulted in friction and mistrust and even armed conflicts.
Over to Montclair for a question from Montclair.
Yes, hello. My name is Adam Greenhouse. I'm a sophomore here. I just wanted to know if, sorry, the bell. If it was brought to the UN's attention at all about an asteroid that is determined to pass within the Earth's atmosphere. It's got a diameter of about 5 miles, and they're calling it Apophis. They're saying it's going to pass within Earth's atmosphere in the 2020s. And it's going to pass again in the 2030s. But they don't know whether it's going to hit in the 2030s until it passes in the 2020s, and they can't tell. So I'm just wondering, is there any way to find out, and if do we have to wait until it's that long, and will it be too late if we do?
I'll take that question.
Okay.
You see, what happens is that you use computers in order to compute the orbits of orbiting objects, including asteroids. But there are many variables which come into play, and the variables are the different gravities which are in operation. And so you watch and you constantly rectify your computer calculations. There are computers doing this 24/7, watching these asteroids and correcting the calculations. And so it's not that you have to wait until 2020 before you know whether it's going to be a hit or miss. We will know well in advance. But the problem is that if you have a 5-mile object coming straight towards you, what are the options that are open to you? Do you go out and blow it up, in which